They did that for 30 days. So by the end of that 30 days, they already failed, learned, corrected 30 times. As opposed to group A, which is the average person, won't pull the trigger, so they only make one error. Now in their mind, they make like 50, right? You're sitting there and you're thinking of all these things that could go wrong, and if this happens, I'll do this, cool, I'm gonna wait until this, and then once I get this, no, just pull the freaking trigger. What is going on, YouTube, and welcome back to another DBA Mindset podcast. It is your host, Mr. Bryce Dettorre, and we got a good episode today. I'm excited for this episode. This is actually the second time shooting this episode, and the reason why is because your boy forgot to hit record on a section of when I previously filmed this video. So I had to do a second take, a double shoot, whatever you want to call it. I'm not bummed about it though, because I'm not gonna lie, I actually am really liking doing these type of videos. The main reason why is because I read a lot of books, and the information that I get, I'm like, well, I never learned this before. No one ever taught me this before. And it's one of those things that when you have information that you think you can help, or that could help people, if you're like me, you just want to share it with everybody. Even random people that you come across on the street, you just want to tell them what I'm going to talk to you guys about in these videos. And that's really what the DBA Mindset podcast is about. I started reading books back when I was 21, I want to say. And the first book I read that changed my life, and decided I wanted to read books for the rest of my life. Prior to reading this book, which I want to tell you about, I never read books. I was told to read books in high school, like To Kill a Mockingbird, and I forgot what the other one was, but I did not read these books. I spark notes the mess out of them. I didn't like reading books. However, when I did read this book called Think and Grow Rich, that got me super excited. The title grabbed my attention because I wanted to grow rich at the time. So I read the book, and after I read the book, I read basically that same book 7 times, and then I got addicted to buying books and reading books, and now I pretty much read a book about a week. Some of them really good books, some of them trash books, but every book I get something from, I have this tendency to just want to tell people. Usually the first person I tell is my beautiful bride, Cassie, because I live with her. And I'll probably start telling Adeline these things too as she gets older. But when I get this information and it helps me, and it makes me realize ways that I can improve, and it's almost like a aha moment, like a light flips on or switches on, whatever you want to call it, that it makes sense. And if it makes sense to me, chances are it will make sense to the average person, which is what the DBA Mindset podcast is really about. See, everybody has this voice of average, I like to call it, in their mind. Now, the problem is the average person is not aware of it, so they listen to it, they believe it, and they do what it says. What I'm trying to help you guys through this podcast is being able to recognize that voice, analyze that voice, have a conversation with that voice, and at the end of the day, not listen to the voice of average, so that you can go live a successful, a happy, a great life, whatever you guys want to achieve. Because success to everybody looks different. But at the end of the day, success, the definition, is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. Now see, the average person will aim at nothing and hit it every single time. So my goal is to help you set goals, right? Help you set things that you're going to aim at, and then figure out a way to hit that target. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers. Trust me, I have not all the answers. But I'm trying to achieve those answers and learn from the books that I read and every information that I get, share with you guys. So that's why I'm excited about doing these podcasts. I got really good feedback from you guys so far. So if it was up to me, I'd do one of these every single day. And you guys would pretty much live your life with Bryce 7 days a week. However, I got my own life that I'm trying to balance, but I am going to be trying to get these out at least once a week, along with my traditional vlogs on fitness training, nutrition, working out, all that stuff, because it's a balance. But at the same time, I want to give you guys content on, like I said, the fitness, the nutrition, the training programs. But I like this stuff. This is how I got started when I would go around and do motivational speaking for high schools. This is the stuff that made me create DBA and get pumped out of my mind and want to share this with everybody. So this is going to be that outlet for me. I like doing this. I like motivating. That's why I became a teacher. I want to inspire. I want to motivate. I want to educate. I want to learn at the same time, all this stuff. So this podcast is really geared towards an outlet where you can tap into once a week, get 30 minutes of just raw, uncut knowledge that I get from books that I could share with you and hopefully help one of your areas of life. And then at the other flip side of that, you'll also have another video every single week that will help you achieve your fitness related mindset, because I think that's fitness and nutrition and working out is a huge component in order to live this DBA mindset, because I feel that what I read in books I can apply daily in my workouts, which transfers over to my everyday life and allows me to not live your average life. All right, that being said, let's jump straight into it. And again, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that you can use to achieve your goals. Not only if it's growing a YouTube channel, then perfect, you can apply these. But if your goal is to lose weight, get in better shape, if your goal is to get a better relationship, if your goal is to get out of that job you don't like, find a better job, if your goal is to go back to college, whatever it may be, think of your goal, because we all have them, right? Think of your goal and that you can use these strategies. I'm going to do my best to show you guys what I used and tell you guys what I used, and then at the same time allow you guys to apply it to every aspect of your life. Because I'm not just going to sit here and talk about what worked for me. I'm going to try and put it in a way that you can take it as like a nugget and then use it towards achieving your goal. So the first thing that I had to do in order to start my YouTube channel, right? And if your goal is to get in shape, if your goal is to find a new job, get a better relationship, whatever it is, the first thing you got to do, and this is probably the hardest thing, and so many reasons why I have heard people don't follow their goal. And the first thing you got to do, and which I had to do, was just pull the trigger. At the end of the day, you got to pull the freaking trigger, right? When I thought about starting a YouTube channel, I watched every YouTube video on, growing a YouTube channel in 2023, how to start your own, everything. I watched every single video, and I started doing, and I suffer from this, and I still suffer from this, even when I start to think of different goals I want to accomplish. And that is what's called paralysis by analysis. See, I wanted to start a YouTube channel like 7 years ago, and I actually did. I did like 5 videos, right? I pulled the trigger. But the reason why I stopped is because I suffered from paralysis by analysis. I started analyzing everything. I started analyzing my thumbnails. I started analyzing how I was videotaping. I started analyzing, I don't have the best camera. And this can apply to when you're thinking about going to the gym. I don't have the best gym membership. I live too far from the gym. I'll start this. maybe, and you just start analyzing everything. I can't get a new job because I'll wait for this to happen. Or once this happens, or I don't have a resume, or I got to fill out, the perfect LinkedIn website, or whatever it may be. You just sit there and you analyze too much. And I know a lot of people that wanted to start a Twitch channel or start their own podcast. And when it came to doing it, every time I would see them and talk to them, they were just talking about it. And that's what the average person, including myself, would do, is you start analyzing and thinking of I'll start tomorrow. I hear that all the time when it comes to diet. I'm going to start on the new year. I'm going to start. Why? And chances are, if you're putting off starting, it's because you're analyzing everything. You're sitting there and you're waiting for everything to be perfect. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not always going to be perfect. You learn so much by just pulling the trigger. I learned so much by just hitting record and being awkward and looking at the camera and having a conversation by myself. You learn so much by just walking into the gym about yourself. About being awkward, not knowing how to use the machines, looking around, feeling like I look like a weirdo. And this could be in any class, going back to college, starting a new job, whatever it is, you're going to feel awkward. I read this one story that really kind of hit home with me. And they did this study, I think at some university or whatever, and it was basically there was two groups broken up, Group A and Group B. Group A had the task that they had to create in 30 days 1 clay pot. Now they had to create this clay pot in 30 days, but it had to be a perfect clay pot. Now they could do research on it, they could ask other people, they can look at other pots to get, some references, some ideas, but their task was to just build 1 clay pot in 30 days, a perfect clay pot. Group B, however, was told, you guys have to build a pot every single day. No matter what. It doesn't matter, it just has to be, you have to attempt to build a clay pot every single day. That is your task. So at the end of the day, you need to have a clay pot. At the end of 30 days, you need to have 30 clay pots. Now when the study was done at the end of the 30 days, guess which group had the better clay pot? Now if you said Group B, you're right. It was not Group A who sat around analyzing, comparing, talking to the experts, getting all these ideas, doing research on how to create the perfect pot, and then only doing it once. Group B, the group that actually just went out there and said, hey, screw it, we're gonna pull the trigger and we're gonna create a pot. The first day, I guarantee they were like, wow, that sucks, we need to change our strategy. Second day, same thing. Third day, oh wait, we did this yesterday, this didn't work, but this did, let's apply that. You did that, or they did that for 30 days. So by the end of that 30 days, they already failed, learned, corrected 30 times. As opposed to Group A, which is the average person, won't pull the trigger, so they only make 1 error. Now in their mind, they make like 50, right? You're sitting there and you're thinking of all these things that could go wrong, and if this happens, I'll do this, cool, I'm gonna wait until this, and then once I get this, no, just pull the freaking trigger. And that's really the hardest part that I had, honestly, when it comes to starting any goal. It's probably gonna be the hardest part, is just pull the trigger, but you learn so much from just pulling the trigger. Now, when it came to YouTube, the cool thing was I was able to pull the trigger in silence. See, I didn't tell anybody about it. I had like 10 videos up, and I remember Cassie was like, are you gonna tell anybody? And I was like, no, I just wanna get into the routine of pulling the trigger. Because it's not like you pull the trigger and you're done. You gotta keep pulling the trigger. You gotta keep going to the gym. You gotta keep going to job interviews. You gotta keep going back to that awkward class, that awkward relationship, whatever it is. You gotta keep pulling the trigger. So I was just focused on, I'm gonna get really good at pulling the trigger. I'm not even gonna focus on the target. I just wanna be a trigger man. Call me Trigger Bryce. I was just gonna be shooting left and right. I was not even gonna be concentrating on that actual target. My goal was to produce a video every single week. And by doing that, the consistency is what led to the growth. And that is my tip number 1, is you just pull the trigger and learn as you go. Now, I already kind of touched on tip number 2, which tip number 2 is you got to be consistent, right? So tip number 1 is you got to pull the trigger, any goal in life. Tip number 2 is once you pull the trigger, you don't just got 1 bullet. You got a clip. You got a magazine. And once you empty that clip, you got to load it up again and keep firing. You have to be consistent. See, and that's where I failed when I started my first YouTube channel. Like I said, I posted probably about 5 videos. I posted like 1 video a week, and I just shot it on my phone, and it was basically at my desk, kind of like this vibe, because this is really what I wanted to start. But I stopped. I just wasn't consistent, and I'll get into why I stopped, because that's like tip number 3 or whatever I'm going to give you. So I'm not going to give you that right now. But once you pull the trigger, you have to be consistent. So once you go to the gym, you can't just go to the gym once and expect that you're going to be looking like a Greek god Leonidas himself. You have to be consistent with it. Now, if you could focus on consistency, I think where people fail and where the average person messes up and where they can't stay consistent is they get into they go after their goal, they pull the trigger, but they focus on their end result, meaning they focus on, I want to be famous. They focus on, I want to have 1,000 subscribers. They focus, if it's fitness, they focus on, I don't want to be fat, I want to be fit. It might be money, whatever. Well, they pull the trigger and they're like, cool, they had to overcome that huge hurdle, which if you do that, you obviously got to pat yourself on the back. But the problem is if you were so stressed out and freaking out about going to the gym and getting back into shape, and say you were going back and forth with this voice for 30 days, and you finally pulled the trigger once, you go to the gym, you're super sore, you wake up the next morning and you're still fat, it's hard to be consistent. Because you got to go back through that whole mindset that you just did for the past 30 days. You got to psych yourself up every single day. You got to turn away that donut, that cheat meal, not, socialize, not drink for a while before you see results. Oh, that's tough. I don't know if I want to do that. Wait, you're saying I gotta keep getting in front of the camera and being awkward in front of people, and I gotta keep going to job interviews before I actually start making money? I gotta go back to school and start failing on all these tests before I could actually get the degree and make the money and prove everyone wrong? Oh, shoot, I don't know if I want to do that. And that's where the average person will stop, is because it's hard to keep doing something when you're not seeing the results. Now, the flip side to that, and the way I overcame that, is I stopped focusing on results. I literally, my result was to be consistent. Like, that's what I was focusing on. So I set up a schedule, and you could use this when it comes to, you just got to break it down differently. But I said I just want to be consistent. I looked at all the big YouTube channels that I follow, and I realized that they all have been doing it for about 7 years, and they were all pretty consistent for like posting a video a week. So technically, instead of focusing on the result of, I'm going to have 1,000 subscribers, I focused on, okay, I'm going to have a video a week. Now, the good thing about focusing on something like this and breaking your huge goal down into something smaller, I'm able to focus and get this result once a week, a lot sooner than a 7-year plan, right? To try and stay consistent without seeing the result for 7 years is tough. But if I just have to stay consistent and focus on the result every 7 days, that's a little bit easier for me to wrap my head around and actually stay consistent. Now, I wouldn't focus on, I'm going to post a video and my goal is to get 100 views. I can't control that. So don't try to focus on and stay consistent with something you can't control. I can control that I post a video a week. You can control that you show up to the gym every single week. You can't control that you lose 10 pounds the first week. It's to a certain extent. You can't control whether you get the job or not, but you can control, I'm going to stay consistent on keep training my resume, keep going for job interviews, keep getting out there. You can be consistent with that. If your goal was, hey, I'm going to turn in 5, resumes a week, you can be consistent with that. You control that. And I wanted to create 1 video a week. I could stay consistent with that. That's what I was focusing on. And at the end of the week, if I post that video, shout out to me, because my goal is consistent. And I would pat yourself on the back if you are able to be consistent. And then what I started to do is every time I was consistent, so that I could make sure that I was seeing growth, is I would ask myself 2 questions. And you could ask yourself these 2 questions. I ask them at the end of each workday. I ask them when it comes to my relationship with my wife, with my daughter, with anything, even my workouts. I always ask myself these 2 questions. What did I do good? And what could I have done better? And that's you're gonna get positive answers, right? It's not like, oh my God, what did I do bad, right? Because now your mind is gonna give you something negative. No, what did I do good? I was able to make eye contact with the camera. Cool. What could I have done better? I probably should have done a better thumbnail. Cool. And you just go about their way. What did I do good at that interview? I made a lot of eye contact. Cool. What could I have done better? Make sure I show up on time, right? And then you just keep applying that. So ask yourself those 2 questions. Focus on being consistent with what you can control, and do not focus on being consistent with like the result that's going to come 7 years down the road, a year down the road, or a result that you can't control yourself. That is where the average person will mess up. All right, so tip number 3, if you're one of those people like me that your love language is like words of affirmation, if you don't know what a love language is, read the book. It's like 5 languages. I think there's 6. I think one of the love languages should be food, because I love donuts, and when people give me donuts, I have a tendency to love them and appreciate them. So I think the 6th love language should be food. However, my primary love language is words of affirmation. So I like when I do something, feeling appreciated for it. And some people's, it may not be the best. I don't know. It may not be the best love language, and people might be like, oh, you're self-centered. I don't know. I might be. Who knows? However, I like to hear good job, and that's it. I don't need gifts. Like, one of them's gifts, one of them's time, one of them's, I forgot the other ones. Anyway, read the book. But mine's affirmations. So I like when I receive praise for what I do. It motivates me and it pushes me forward. That was one of the things that I struggled with. And I think when it comes to setting a goal, the average person, usually if you're excited about something, you're going to tell the people closest to you. So you go out and you tell them. And then if they don't support you, which is not their job to support you, it's not their goal, like it's your goal. Now, would it be nice if they were like, yeah, you know, cool, go ahead. Now there's a difference between like encouraging and then hating, right? Like you're going to have people that actually, I think, genuinely don't want you to be successful. And then there's going to be people that they may not praise you like the praise that you're expecting them to praise you, but they do support you. And what I had to realize is I just focused on, and I still do have to do this to this day, is focus on the people that are actually showing me support, right? So like I focus on the fact that my wife supports the mess out of me. My parents support the mess out of me. I got a couple really close friends, a couple cousins, and obviously all of you guys. Like that's another thing. The support I received from random people that never like ever met me in real life. The support I received from you guys was just like blowing me away. But at the same time, you guys saw me for who I am right now and what I'm doing. If you're someone who wants a goal of, if your goal is to make $10,000 but you're broke, if you tell someone that's your goal and they've known you for a long time, that's going to be very hard for them to see you being that person, because they see you as you are, or how have you been for the past 10 years or however long they've known you. So don't get wrapped up in if someone doesn't believe in you. They'll believe in you, and I think that's why I got so much support from random people, is because they saw me for who I am right now, not who I was 10 years ago, not who I think that's what you need to just wrap your head around, is if you have a goal that you want to make $10,000, you want to lose 100 pounds, it's okay that people don't see it, right? You gotta, some people, the average person is like, I'll believe it when I see it. And like successful people, and you're not your average person, is like, I believe it, therefore I see it. So you have to believe it before anybody else does. And most of the time you got to believe it, and then they'll actually see it, if that makes sense. So you believe it enough, you manifest it, you go out, you put in the work, and you create it, then they see it, and then they believe it, and they're able to jump on. Now, you got to have belief like no other, which I've talked about that before. You have to believe in yourself and see it, like to the point where I have so much belief in certain goals that I'm able to visualize it and see it in my brain. However, if the person I'm talking to doesn't have that belief, they're not going to, and they physically can't see it, it's going to be hard for them to support you. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, but it's going to be hard for them to support you. And that's why, like, I think there's a connection between religious people, and I'm not going to say success because, like, that's kind of like a word that's thrown around a lot, but, like, religion is belief. Like, you have to have faith, and most of it, you can't even see it. And I think if you're able to develop that belief in religion, it's a lot easier for you to transfer that belief over into yourself, because you do it every single day when it comes to religion. So I think and that's just a whole different side topic, but I think there's a big connection between people who are religious and being able to see their dreams before they actually come into real life, because they have that belief up here. So that's tip number 3, is you may not get support from the people closest to you, from your family, your friends, your coworkers, whatever it may be. But at the same time, just focus on the people that are actually giving you support. And at the end of the day, if you can believe it and enough so that you can see it, you're in your own mind, that's really all that matters at the end of the day. All right, tip number 4, I'm gonna keep this short because I want to keep obviously the video short. Tip number 4, and I've said this before, you gotta stop comparing yourself to other people. And this is where, like, I stopped when it came to the YouTube. I pulled the trigger, I was consistent for 5 videos, and the reason why I stopped is I was comparing myself to all the people out there I followed on YouTube. Now, chances are, if you have a goal, whether it is to make money, go back to school, lose weight, you have this goal because you've seen someone do it and they're like inspiring you to do it. Which is a good thing and a bad thing. Because I would look at a lot of people and I would see what they have, and the problem is I only posted 5 videos, and then I would go on, and this is where social media can like mess with your mindset, right? Because you pull the trigger, you stay consistent, you post 5 videos, and then I have 0 views, or say 100 views, And then I go look at someone who posted a video a day ago and they're already at 100,000 views. Now, the problem is I'm here and I'm comparing myself to someone who's up here. Now, when I say up here, it's like I'm comparing one aspect. I'm comparing the views. But what I'm not looking at, which is where they aren't comparable and they're not similar, is this dude's been doing it for 7 years. And he already has 100,000 subscribers. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 7 weeks, and I have 10 subscribers. So why do I think that I'm going to have the same numbers as him? And then I even went back and I would look at like, okay, well, how many views did this person have on their first video? Doesn't matter, because they also have 100,000 subscribers. So people are probably going back and watching their videos. So again, you're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges. And that's not fair to yourself. If you want to start working out and you go work out one day and then you look at someone and you're like, man, I don't look anything like that guy or that girl, but they've been working out for 15 years, you're comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. So you got to be able to compare apples to apples, and at the end of the day, that apple really should just be you. You shouldn't be even like comparing yourself to other people, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody, I mean, it could come down to where you live, how you know, who you network with, where you're at in your life, right place, right time, all that stuff. So there's so many different aspects. What I would say is, if you're going to compare yourself to like how you were the last time you attempted it. So for instance, if it's weight, compare your weight week to week. Me, I would compare my last video, or the video I just posted, to my last video. Okay, what did I do? And I would ask myself those same 2 questions, and I'd come back to those 2 questions. So if you're going to compare yourself, keep track of everything. Track everything. When it comes to fitness, that's really easy. You may not look a certain way, but maybe your weight increased, your actual like strength weight, not your belly weight. But like, say you got stronger. Well, that's a good comparison. You're comparing apples to apples, because you're comparing yourself to today from how you were like last week, and you got stronger. That's a success. When it came to the posting the videos, I would just start comparing my video to my last video. Okay, well, this video did a lot better, or this video sucked compared to the last one. And then I would ask myself those 2 questions. What did I do good? And what could I have done better? And that's where I started realizing, oh, well, my last one, I posted a better, my title was a lot more searchable than this one. And that's where I started seeing the growth. Is I started to just analyze basically my week to week productivity. And that's what you need to compare. So step number 4 is only compare yourself to yourself at the end of the day. All right, and the final tip to wrap up this podcast is you have to establish your why. And you probably have heard that thrown around so many times when it comes to goals. What's your why? My why. Your why is more important than your how. And it's like these motivational people, and they're all getting pumped up, like, you don't know my why, and this, this is my, and all that stuff. And trust me, I buy into it. It gets me pumped up, and if it gets you pumped up and makes you feel good, and you're able to go out there and do what you need to do, then by all means keep doing it. But the why is very important. Now, when it came to something like this, I wrote down about 100 reasons why I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I did the same thing of 100 reasons why I wanted to go back to school to get my master's. 100 reasons why I wanted to become a teacher. 100 reasons why I want to lose, whatever. The reason why I say 100 is it's really hard to think of 100 reasons. The first 10 are pretty easy. You could probably fire those off in about 10 seconds. But the remaining 90 will come like sporadically throughout the weeks and months. You may get them randomly when you least expect it. You might get them when you're, freaking pumping gas at the gas station or whatever it may be. And my why for when it came to this hit me like a freaking freight train. And it came from my little girl, little Miss Adeline, aka Chunky Tuna. And it came one time when, so she was, I don't even think she was a year old when this happened. I don't know, she was walking, that's for sure. Maybe like a year and a half. Anyways, this is like why I wanted to start my YouTube channel. Is I always talked about doing it, and this is something that I was like, man, I really want to do. Maybe I'll get around to it, whatever, right? Well, my beautiful daughter was walking out to the trash can. And mind you, she can't even talk at this time. But she walks out to the trash can, holding my trash can from my office. She's holding my trash can. She sets it down. She opens the lid of the kitchen trash can. She dumps in the trash. She's attempting to pull out the trash bag. She can't. So I walk over and I'm like, you need help, Mama? And I pull it out. And then as I pull it out, like I tie it and I go, throw it in the trash, the trash can outside, and then as I'm walking back in, she's going into the cabinet, she's pulling out a trash bag, and she's trying to do the, you know, the thing where you, and it like opens. She's trying to do that, and it was the funniest thing. But what shocked me, and I've heard this before, when people are saying like your children learn more from what you do than what you say, and that hit me hard, because I realized, one, Cassie and I have never at this point told Adeline how to change a trash can. Like, oh, you got to go get down the hall. You know, we didn't break it down step by step. There was other things we broke down step by step that she didn't do that well. But this thing, I was very impressed. I'm like, man, she did this freaking good, but it scared me. It scared me and it motivated me. It scared me, one, because I realized she's watching everything I do, everything we do. So that's a good thing, and that could be a bad thing. Good thing is, I have to be on my A game. It's going to force me to be on my A game and be a role model for my daughter. The bad news is I have to be on my A game every single day. I can't mess up because she's watching me. And that's where it hit me, because I realized, like, there's going to come a time in her life where she has a goal and she probably wants to go out and achieve it. And I don't want to be one of those people that literally like just look at her and tell her like, oh, you could do anything you want, or you just got to work hard at it. And it freaked me out, but I'm like, what if she asks me like, well, did you do everything you wanted to do, Daddy? And in the back of my head, I wouldn't be able to look her in the eye and say, oh yeah, I've done everything, you know? If in the back of my head, and I know obviously some of you guys are probably like, it's a YouTube channel, it's not that big of a deal, but in the back of my head, it would have been a goal that I said I wanted to do, but I didn't pull the trigger on, I wasn't consistent with, and I didn't follow through. How would I ever be able to like convince her or have her believe me when I say I want to lead by example? I want to be able to connect with her. I want to be able to tell her like, this is what I did. And I want to have that relationship. So that was it for me. When that happened, I was just like, I need to pull the trigger on this just so that I could have that conversation with her and actually be truthful to her. I read this in a book one time. I'm going to come back with stories because I read a lot of books. That there was this like guru who knew everything. And this one guy comes walking up to him and he's like, hey, you know, I've really been trying to I want to start or stop smoking, but I've really, really been struggling with it. Can you like give me some tips on how to, you know, stop smoking? And the guru's like, I got you. The problem is you have to come back in 2 weeks. Come back in 2 weeks and I'll give you the advice. And the guy's like, 2 weeks? Like, I need the advice now. And he's like, come back in 2 weeks and I got you. I'll teach you. I'll tell you everything I know about. I'll give you the tip on how to stop smoking. And the guy's like, all right, cool. I'll come back in 2 weeks. So he comes back in 2 weeks. And the guy's like, okay, so how do I stop smoking? And he looks at him and he tells him, you just got to stop smoking. And the guy's like, what? Like, you're going to tell me that? I waited 2 weeks for that? What the heck did you do in 2 weeks that made me have to wait to come back to you? And the guy looks at him and like, I had to stop smoking. And that's it. Literally, if you're going to be a guru, if you're going to be a leader, you have to lead by example or no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to believe you. And that was like, when I read that story and then I saw my daughter, I was just like, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy for my daughter, not only for my daughter, but for like my wife, right? I want to be able to, if she comes and says, hey, I want to do this, I want to be able to say, like, this is what I've done. I don't want to just sit back there and be like one of those people that reads all these books and never applies it. Like, no, I want to be the one that pulled the trigger and actually went out there, fell flat on his face and been in uncomfortable situations, because it makes me more relatable. And at the end of the day, I want to be a leader for my daughter. And that's plain simple why I decided to pull the trigger. Now, at the end of the day, everybody's why is different though. So I can't just sit here and tell you what your why is going to be. You have to sit down, and I would encourage you to make a list of at least 100 reasons why you want to do something. And I think if you could come up with 100 reasons why, I think you're far above what the average person is willing to do, because I don't think the average person would actually sit down and take that time. But again, this is all about not being average. So, anyways, I think I'm running over my time. My goal is to keep this between, or short, just under 30 minutes. I don't think I did that this one because I kind of went a little bit over. However, like I said, I get too excited about these things and I got a lot of things I want to share with you guys. So I just want to basically yell at you guys every single week. So that is it for episode 2 of the DBA Mindset, wherever you guys are listening from. Make sure you guys like, comment, share. And I think that's it. I think I covered everything. Oh, and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because, like I said, I'm going to be putting one of these out every single week in order to help you eliminate that voice of average. And the least you guys can do is just subscribe. And then comment below on which area you think you struggle with the most. Is it like me, where I struggled with all of them? Or are you just someone that maybe struggles from pulling the trigger? Or you pulled the trigger but you're not consistent? Or you're getting wrapped up in that doom loop of you're not getting the words of affirmation, you're not getting support from you people you thought, and that's, tripping you up. Do you not have a reason why? Whatever it may be, comment below which area you're struggling with the most, and we'll get through it together. That's what this is about, DBA family. So I appreciate you guys. I will put out another one of these next week. Let me know, comment below if you guys are liking these videos, if you guys want to see more of these videos. At the end of the day, not to be rude, but I don't really care what you guys say in that aspect because I'm going to keep putting them out because I enjoy doing this. And if I enjoy doing something that I think it could benefit people, I'm going to do it regardless. So if you say, hey, I hate these videos, I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to just keep pushing. But you guys already know I love all you guys. And you guys already know the motto here. Stay happy, stay healthy, and above all, don't be average. Now go pull the freaking trigger.